everyone, and welcome to All Things STEM with Ashley. I'm your host, Ashley, and I'm super excited for our guest, Lyndsey DeRamus. Joining us today is an incredible leader in environmental engineering, Lyndsey DeRamus. With 4 years of industry experience, she's making waves in sustainability, consulting, and client partnerships. From her early days as a co-op at Mercedes-Benz to her impactful work in D&I programming and university initiatives, she's been committed to driving change. Now, as an environmental engineering consultant and client account partner, she's dedicated to bridging the gap between environmental and human health. You may also recognize her from Green Tea Wednesday, where she educates the public on sustainability's role in well-being. Please welcome Lyndsey DeRamus.
Hello.
Welcome, honey.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting.
I'm so excited to have you here today and just to talk about your journey, how you got involved in STEM and to begin with, and how you selected environmental engineering.
It definitely was a journey.
Yes.
Yeah, getting to environmental was definitely a journey. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So can you share with us why you initially got interested in the STEM field, and then go ahead to tell us why you picked environmental engineering?
Sure. I feel like I had a really classic introduction to the STEM industry. When I was registering for the University of Alabama, and literally, you know, when you go in and you pick your classes, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Yeah. Maybe business.
Yeah.
And my father is an industrial engineer and came over me and said, no, you're good at math and science, so you're going to go ahead and you're going to go into engineering.
Yeah.
And so I actually started off in mechanical.
Oh, wow.
I started off as a mechanical engineering student at the University of Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, baby. And one of my wonderful professors pulled me out of his class and was like, you know what? I think you're an engineer, but you're not a mechanical engineer. You're something else.
Oh.
And that's how I was introduced to environmental.
Oh,
changed my major.
Yeah.
Been going forward ever since.
That's excellent. Now, were you involved in any STEM things during high school or before, or when it was like you said, when your dad kind of showed you, hey, this is good for you, you're good in math and science?
Honestly, I actually was involved in something that I feel like wasn't as STEM as I knew it was. I actually was an FFA. If people can remember, that stands for Future Farmers of America, which I think now has a different title.
Yeah.
I was so interested in the environment, but I didn't understand why I was interested or in what field I was interested in. And so I used to actually think I wanted to be a vet, but what I really actually liked was the agriculture and the environment and how we breathe and how animals survive and that kind of thing. And so that was like a light introduction, and then it just kind of took shape from there.
That's excellent. Thank you for sharing. So could you give us an overview of what environmental engineering is for the audience?
I can. So environmental engineering is the engineering that focuses on improving the environment and also managing the systems that we already have placed in the environment. It includes management systems for improving air quality, improving soil quality, improving water quality, and again, maintaining those treatment systems. A lot of people don't know this. Environmental engineering is also focused around hazardous waste management and waste management. There are two delineations between that, but also remedial design and then designing treatment systems as well. So it is a whole umbrella. There's so much opportunity within environmental.
I love that.
Yeah, I hope that was clear enough.
That was an amazing overview. Thank you. I love that. You are the first environmental engineer we've had on the show, so you're putting us on knowledge.
Thank you.
So I want to get into more about environmental engineering. What is the most pressing environmental challenges that you currently see in today's world?
Pressing environmental challenges, I would definitely say there is a newly emerging contaminant, or it's considered newly emerging. We've known it's been around for quite some time, called PFAS. It's one of like the biggest pressing issues in the environmental industry because it's pretty much in everything. And PFAS is an umbrella for multiple contaminants. PFAS, PFO, PFOA. So at first it was this big fearful word until we realized it could be managed. The EPA just released, I think, the MCLs just last year about the limits. The only problem with this contaminant is it persists through the environment in parts per trillion. Okay. So if something is detectable at parts per trillion, that means it's a little bit harder to manage. But everything is efficiently being managed.
Good. Now, what is an MCL?
So an MCL means a maximum contamination limit. I hope I got that right.
Okay.
It just means that remember how I said that word management? It just means that if I find this, it's okay as long as it stays at this level.
Right.
So many people think that like, oh my gosh, the environment is contaminated because I found X amount. As long as your X amount is within a controllable limit, you're fine, which is why we've had so many studies.
Yeah.
And this newly emerging contaminant has been newly emerging for like a decade. It's been around for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So I want to ask, can you explain some of the innovative technologies or approaches in environmental engineering that you're most excited about today?
Honestly, innovative approaches. I actually just went to a company's first depiction of future smart city growth development, which is where they're trying to design entire cities and redesign infrastructure to be the most sustainable. So there's like, all-time electric trains, all-time like solar panels, and they're really taking pieces of infrastructure from like Japanese infrastructure with how they manage their environment, because they have to manage their environment in a completely different way than like somebody who's like landlocked would.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Smart city growth development was like a new innovative thing. I don't even know fully about it, but it's one of those things that like motivates you to keep going. And you know, I thought that was cool.
Very cool. I had not heard of it till you just said it. Yeah, that's excellent. So I wanted to ask, how do environmental engineers work with other professionals, such as policymakers, urban planners, to implement sustainable solutions?
That's a question. Oh my gosh. Honestly, it is part of what I love being environmental, is about how you're across the category, because a big word in environmental is compliance.
Right.
So I'm constantly working with a legal team or teams of other engineers who, because the data comes to me and I'm the consultant. But let's say we have an exceedance. How is that handled legally? You know, how do we proceed from there? So there's a lot of compliance and management when it comes to that. But on the policy making side, something has to happen where if there is like a persisting environmental contamination, or where a community has been fully impacted. And so I forget the statistic, but I think some environmental cases end up having to be tried as civil cases, because hey, this is impacting this environment of this community, of this particular demographic. So there's been multiple environmental cases, multiple environmental studies where lawmakers have to sit down and say, hey, you know what? We've got to re-engineer this entire community. Like there was Perry County, Alabama. That's one of the biggest cases where people started dumping waste from a certain other state, and so I mean it had to be taken all the way up civilly and tried by the EPA. So it can get really, really amplified. I wish I had a better, more articulate
that was
answer.
perfect. No, that was perfect. This is to educate people on things we don't know. And you've already said so many great gems, and we're like not even 10 minutes in. So thank you for that.
Girl.
Lyndsey, I wanted to ask, what role does renewable energy and energy efficiency play in the future of environmental engineering?
I mean, it is the future of environmental engineering. I think what's so surprising about environmental is when you enter into the industry, you have an understanding that people have already maintained these proficient systems. So I remember my wastewater engineering teacher told me one time, if it functions at 99.1%, don't push yourself to get to that 0.9 because we're already hitting the limits.
Right.
And so there's already so many sustainable solutions in place that we as engineers are working just towards to improve upon. So solar, wind, that type of thing. And these systems look a lot different than you would think. But yeah, I would say that renewable energy, it's always at the center. I mean, sustainability is the biggest buzzword in the industry, because there's always the room for continuous improvement upon the systems that we have in place. And you know, like I talked about earlier with like smart city growth development, we have so many things in the works while we're maintaining the systems that already do work.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Energy efficiency, everybody. Keep things in flow.
Lyndsey, can you discuss some of the emerging trends in waste management?
I would say, like, if you look at your company's initiatives, some of y'all are probably going to see like zero net carbon emissions, especially like an aerospace place or where you have like a production facility with large emissions, or just zero net waste, right? And so a lot of these companies are trying to reduce the amount of waste that we send to landfills or that we emit into the air, because some people think waste means like literal physical waste, like something that I take over there and throw in your trash can. Lots of times waste is literally the byproduct of what you're producing.
Okay.
So like, correct me if I'm wrong. But any system that requires energy will output a certain amount of waste.
Right.
And so companies are on a huge push right now within the waste management space to reduce the emissions. There's always a focus on how can I reduce this. A big popular one is zero net carbon emissions. Right. So in the aerospace industry, that's being pushed.
Yeah.
Or in these production facilities, like back when I was an intern at Mercedes, I think my environmental lead was trying to combine with some of the ISO 14001 policies to push towards zero net carbon emissions for the production facility too.
Oh, wow.
So those are the emerging trends, at least that I've got off the top of my mind.
Yeah.
I'm not.
That's perfect.
Thank you.
That's perfect.
Thank you.
We're just teaching the audience what we don't know. So this is all helping us learn a little bit about how we can do better. And they can look up the ISO.
Yeah, always do your research, guys. Because I mean, hey, I am an environmental engineer, but I'm not an expert in each single element of every part of the industry.
That's okay. We appreciate the gems you have given us. So thank you. Next, I want to ask about what are some of the most common misconceptions about environmental engineering?
I love this question. I'll get the misconceptions that I get. So when you hear environmental, you're the things that you think are like green, or plants, or like, trees, water.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true, but a lot of people will be like, oh, so you're a super green thumb? Oh, so you have your own garden? Oh, so you have solar panels on your house? No, a big misconception is that environmental engineers are like the barefoot walking, no slur intended, like tree huggers, which are very necessary, by the way. Love that. Go hug a tree.
Yes.
But that would be a big misconception. Like, environmental engineering is not me like walking outside and cutting clippings of grass and putting it into a bag. It's me going out with like a sonic drill rig and drilling like 60 feet into the ground to extract, to understand what's actually in this material.
Yeah. Very cool. Lyndsey.
Yeah.
Lyndsey, what role do environmental engineers play in disaster response and recovery, such as oil spills, fires, or floods?
I actually worked in emergency response as an environmental engineer on a couple of incidents early on in my career. And what I can tell you that environmental engineers do is various. So you can have multiple roles. What I did was I became kind of like a boots on the ground field tech, because at the end of the day, your goal as an environmental engineer is to let this community and let the client know what is occurring and what has occurred in this environment, if it will spread, how it will persist in the environment, and then the next step of how it will be managed and how it will be reduced.
Right.
So my emergency response situation was actually a train derailment. I won't get into the specifics. I had to sign an NDA.
Yeah.
But I literally did something called creek washing, where you go into the creek bed. There was a contaminant that had spilled out from a train, rinsed into the creek. And this is a water source. So whenever you have a water source, the contaminant's going to get in the water and then be able to persist through the ground. There's groundwater systems. And so what you do is you have to flush this product out of the creek. And then, again, we bring back into that word management. We then track, hey, has this contaminant level gone down? What's my MCL? You have a limited amount of time to reduce that exceedance. So what systems are we going to put in place to also assist us in reducing this contamination? Also, I did residential soil sampling, because lots of times when I'm doing an emergency response situation, the reason why it's such an emergency response is because it's community centered. So this is real people, real houses, real properties being impacted. So I will literally go on people's property and take a soil sample from their property to understand, is this contaminant here? What's the volume of this? So that's it's hard, but to summarize that long-winded response, you're just giving you're really stepping into your consultant shoes.
Yeah.
I'm really just letting everyone understand from not only a data point of view, but when you obtain data, as an engineer, you have to make it clear to what it means.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
To everyone. I have to make the person in the community understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And I also have to let the client understand what's going on, so then we can take the next steps forward.
I love it.
Thanks.
Yes, very good.
A lot of it.
It's good to see, because we always see first responders, like even with California recently, but it's good to know, you all get to do research, see different things, and help as well with a first responder. So thank you for sharing that. Can you share a success story from one of your projects where environmental engineering made a significant difference? I mean, you just said something amazing a second ago, but do you have anything that stands out or one of your favorites that you can share with us?
Honestly, you know what? I probably will just speak from a Lyndsey point of view.
Yeah.
Back to that same derailment, that was my success story became when I really understood the mindset of what I do.
Yeah.
Is to help improve the communities that the environmental impact is happening within.
Yes.
So I had gone to a residence and taken a sample, and she came out to me, and she was obviously very emotional because people do not, if you're not an environmental engineer, you don't really understand what's going on, and all you see is like high vis vest and boots and equipment coming. It can be very mind-boggling. Even if I find nothing in your soil, just that presence and approach to itself is like, what is going on?
Right.
So I feel like in that moment I really stepped into the shoes of being able to communicate and helping kind of reduce the panic that was there. Because where she was, nothing, no contamination. We have to be very limiting in what we can say, NDAs, and what we communicate. But I think my success story comes from me being able to have an interpersonal interaction with a community that was actually impacted, that I helped reduce the impact with it.
Yeah.
And so it was very personal. I wish I could say her name and everything we talked about and what happened, but that was like a key moment for me that I'll always remember in my mind.
I love it.
Thanks.
Thank you. So Lyndsey, how do you stay updated on the latest research technologies and trends within your field?
I definitely like being in your industry. As soon as somebody, they'll send me an email and be like, hey, we need somebody because this is going on right now. So it'll either be very immediate where I have to brush up on that information. But I also feel like you never stop being a student.
Yes.
So, I love going to conferences. I'm actually going to the NSBE conference in Chicago where I get to surround myself with the things that are going on in the industry and do some recruitment. Yeah, so I definitely say for me it's a little bit more, on the nose. Hey, I got this email and this is happening in the industry, or this is newly emerging.
Good.
Brush up on this, or like literally immersing myself into the community and conferences and engaging in that way.
Good.
Also an occasional LinkedIn post, hey,
Yes.
read a little random article.
I love that. Can you tell us what NSBE stands for those that may not know?
The National Society of Black Engineers.
Yes, well thank you, Lyndsey.
Of course.
My next question for you is, what advice would you give to companies or individuals looking to reduce their environmental footprint through engineering solutions?
Ooh, for companies looking to reduce your environmental impact, I would say, one, understand what your product is, understand what you're producing, understand what you're releasing, and get an environmental engineering company involved. I mean, there's top environmental consulting firms. Get some experts involved. Because it might be more complex than you think, but it could also be just as equally simple as you think.
Good. Thank you, Lyndsey. Have you been involved in any initiatives or programs to encourage young women or underrepresented groups to pursue STEM fields?
Yes. Yes, I have. That actually just brought back such a nice memory for me. But also kind of a frictional memory. When I was at my co-op, there was one other Black engineering female. And she was actually a processing engineer, materials and processing engineer. Really cool.
Yes, like me. I used to be a materials and processing
She
engineer.
was an amazing person, and we just realized, you know what? There is not a lot of diversity here. And there's not a lot of understanding why that would be important and how that could contribute to the space, to the knowledge. So we started a DEI initiative there to to one, bring in more people, and then two, to educate the people already there on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that was already STEM centered because we're literally at this automotive production facility, so kind of like, you know, a little cheat code to that. But yeah, that was an amazing journey. Learned a lot.
Yeah. That's awesome, and how you made that impact for other people that look like you, for them to have different things to experience when they get there.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that when somebody, it was just interesting because what happened is you sometimes forget the value that you bring just based on how you show up.
Yes.
So I had so many like microaggressive interactions to where, you know, people would be like, oh, what are you doing here? Literally an engineer. Yeah. And they'd be like, what are you doing here? Are you lost? Or, you know, just interactions like that, or where they're begging you to participate in the photo shoot. And you're like, I'm just that pretty. No, they need to diversify the photo. So in creating that initiative, I just am so proud that we were able to foster more engagement with that program, to bring in more people, and then, you know, to break down some barriers and educate people. Education is a frictional process. So
that's beautiful. That's wonderful.
Thanks.
I'm glad you can make that impact. I wanted to get back a little bit to the field of environmental engineering. I want to ask how you see it evolving over the next 5 to 10 years.
Ooh. That's a big question. You know what? I would say in my, how many years have I been in this industry now? 4 or 5. The way that I've already started to see it change is the way that I continue to see it change. So a decade to us is so much shorter than we think it is. Right. So I think some of these evolutions will happen over the course of like the next decade instead of how people want it to happen in like 2 years, especially in relation to climate crisis. So I just see us continuously improving it, like water treatment systems, like taking a page out of, you know, countries like the Netherlands who have mastered water treatment systems, water management systems. Right, or Japan with literally how they build sustainability into their infrastructure, like having buildings that are reflective of the sunlight off of the building, and they have these super cool like smart city growth like trees and vertical farming and things like that. So I also foresee maybe just changes in the agricultural industry with more engineered soil options and treatment options like that. So broad guesstimate.
Yeah. Now we're going to kind of get into a little bit about your journey again and tips for success you have, things you may have wanted to change, and things like that. So looking back, is there anything you would have done differently in your STEM journey?
Oh, absolutely, for sure. Definitely, my immediate thought is back to student life. I would have put so much more effort towards understanding what it is I actually wanted to do with my degree. In college, your mindset is get the degree, get the degree, get the degree. Right. But you don't think about, like, at least I didn't think about it. Like, I was just trying to finish. I didn't think about the why I wanted to get it or what I wanted to do with it. So even if it's just a little bit of effort, just start to just do a little research into like the actual part of environmental engineering that you want to partake in.
I agree. I was the same way, trying to get the degree.
And
jobs will be out there when I finish. Let me get this degree.
Because that's what they tell you. They're like, oh, you're an engineer, you'll get a job.
Yeah.
What kind of job?
Yeah, and what will you enjoy?
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's important. Well, thank you.
Of course.
Another question I want to ask is, what advice would you give to young engineers or students who are interested in pursuing a career in environmental engineering?
Oh my gosh, okay. If you're interested in environmental engineering, meet an engineer. Meet an environmental engineer, because your definition of environmental engineering versus what that role actually requires might be different. I remember breaking into the industry and it being not expected, like not how I expected at all. So you might be an environmental engineer, but you might not want to be a wastewater engineer. Okay, you might want to actually focus on design, or maybe you want to just focus on the consulting, or so because there's so many different things you can do within environmental engineering. I would definitely say actually speak to one, speak to multiple, and just kind of gauge their jobs and their roles, so you again can like go back to what you like to do, or figure it out.
Thank you, Lyndsey. And then our final question for today is, what are 3 tips for success in navigating your STEM journey and STEM career?
3 tips for success in navigating your STEM journey or your STEM career.
Yes.
First one that comes to mind is mentorship.
Yes.
Find a good mentor that can help you, that can give you some insight into your actual journey of career development.
Yes.
That's my first tip, is find a good mentor. My next tip, understand your study habits. I think if I had understood that the way I studied in high school should have been way different than how I studied in college,
right,
would have been so helpful.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
That's what I'm saying. You remember being able to ace an AP class without like thinking it. Yeah. And engineering and just STEM, what is it?
Yeah.
Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is so much more than retention.
Yes.
You have to be able to apply and deliver. That's my second tip, is understanding your study habits and also diversifying them, because how you study for heat transfer is definitely different than how I studied for differential equations.
Yes.
Third tip, this is probably my favorite tip. As engineers, I remember in college we had to take a comms 1, 2, 3 class as one of our electives. I always like to say, remember your presentation, remember how you show up. So many of us, I know, at least for me being an engineer, we show up introverted, and that's okay, because I mean, sometimes you're behind the desk, you're the one who's delivering on the data. But I would definitely say, make sure you elevate your presentation and how you show up in a room. Always keep that with you.
I love it. Thank you, Lyndsey.
Of course.
And how did we meet?
Roll Tide.
I remember I was there a few years, and when Lyndsey was coming in, we met and we clicked immediately.
We did. We just clicked.
We both had super fun energy.
Yeah.
And we were both in the School of Engineering, and then it's just transcended to here. Almost like,
was that Hardaway?
It might have been. Hardaway is one of our engineering buildings at the University of Alabama, so roll tide. But networking and sustaining friendships and relationships, you never know. Like, I moved to Dallas, and she was already here, and she welcomed me. And now we're here together, both getting to talk about engineering and give tips that we wish we had known and impact others. So definitely network, and definitely make genuine connections.
That was the big tip, is the networking. Start your network now. Because what people can do for you isn't always professional. Like, you might, once you land your career, they might send you to Seattle. So hopefully, maybe you have kept a connection. Like, we kept a connection. Who knew we would both move to Dallas and that kind of thing? So,
we wouldn't know 10 years ago. But we're here today. And we are here today. We're thriving thanks to the University of Alabama.
Thanks to the University of Alabama.
Those degrees.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Thank you to the engineering program at the University of Alabama.
Yes.
Thank you to Nesby.
Yes.
Hey, I mean, big shout out to Nesby. We hope to see everybody at the conference in Chicago this year.
Yes.
So,
Oh, good. Well, Lyndsey, thank you so much for being a guest today. We appreciate your gems of knowledge, your STEM journey, and tips for success in navigating the STEM industry. Thank you all for watching All Things STEM with Ashley. Please like and subscribe, and tune in next week for more things.
Tune in, y'all. Thank you.